Hey guys, this is iTower. Today we're diving into JavaScript. Not the basic stuff everyone already knows, but a real interview challenge used by top companies. In this video, we'll focus on one coding task that reveals new challenges and insights, whether you're an experienced developer or just starting out. Before we get started, please hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It really helps out and is super important. Let's kick off with our challenge. In this task, we're going to build a function that transforms a typical multi-argument function into a chain of functions where each one accepts a single argument. This technique, known as currying, allows us to apply arguments gradually, making it easier to create specialized functions. Let's start by creating a function called curry that takes one parameter named fn. This fn represents the function we want to transform into a curried version, meaning we want to break it down into a series of single argument functions. Inside curry, we then define a new function called curried. This function is designed to accept any number of arguments by collecting them into an array we refer to as args. In other words, every time we call curried, all the arguments provided are gathered into args. Next, we check whether the number of elements in the args array is at least as many as the number of parameters that fn expects. We determine the expected count by looking at the length property of fn. If the count of args is sufficient, we proceed by calling the apply method on fn. In this call, we pass the current context and the array of arguments args. This step effectively executes fn with all the arguments that have been collected. However, if there are not enough arguments yet, we return a new function. This new function is created to accept additional arguments. When it is invoked, we combine the already collected arguments with the new ones. To do this, we call the concat method on the args array and pass next args as the argument. Then, we recursively call curried with the newly combined array of arguments. This process continues until we have collected all the required arguments to finally invoke fn. In summary, by gradually collecting arguments and checking their count at each step, we enable partial application of the function fn. This approach is what we refer to as currying, and it allows us to create more specialized functions from a general one. Let's break this down step by step and see why currying is useful in real-world scenarios. First, we define a function called logMessage that takes three arguments: the log level, the timestamp, and the actual message. This function returns a formatted string where the log level is enclosed in square brackets, followed by the timestamp and the message. Next, we pass this function into our curry function, creating a new function called curriedLog. This allows us to provide arguments step by step instead of all at once. Now, we take advantage of currying by creating specialized loggers. For example, when we call curriedLog and pass the string info, we get a new function that already has info set as the log level. Similarly, we create warning log and error log for warning and error log levels. These functions now expect only the timestamp and the message. We take this a step further by pre-applying the timestamp as well. For instance, when we call infolog with a specific timestamp, we get a function that requires only the message. This means that whenever we need to log an event, we don't have to repeatedly specify both the log level and the timestamp. So, what's the practical benefit? In real applications, especially in logging systems or API responses, we often deal with functions that have repetitive parameters. Currying helps us create reusable, more readable, and modular code by letting us predefine values we use frequently. Instead of writing the same arguments over and over, we generate pre-configured functions that handle specific cases. This approach not only saves time, but also makes our code cleaner and easier to maintain.